Hello and welcome to the show. Vegetable and fruit growers in New Zealand often have it really tough. Even to make a small profit requires very creative thinking and a good dose of curiosity. This week on Thinking Forward, we're with Anthony and Angela Tringham, Clevedon's Curious Croppers. So tell us how you chose the name Curious Croppers.
That was quite hard, wasn't it?
It was very hard. We basically went through hundreds of names, trying to think of names. Most of them were pretty stupid.
We come up with some I'm not allowed to tell you. Because they're too stupid. You think, when you're brainstorming with names, you think at about midnight one night we said, this is brilliant, this is going to work. And you write it down, the next morning you go, no, that's not a very good one, we're not telling anybody that one.
We asked friends as well. They came up with equally bad names. But in saying that, it was a friend that kind of got us towards the Curious Croppers. And then the tagline, growers of cranky but gorgeous vegetables, just gradually evolved. But then also in saying that,
It evolved very quickly.
Very quickly, we were representing the Clevedon Farmers Market at a food show. And so we realised 2 days before that we didn't actually have a name as a business and we needed business cards. So it happened in 2 days.
So we're very good with deadlines.
Yeah.
So we need a deadline in hours and then we'll come up with something.
Yeah.
Working under pressure.
Working under pressure. So we're growers of cranky but gorgeous vegetables.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And the drawings are yours too, Anthony. Tell me about that.
I've always liked drawing vegetables because they've got such personality. And I think if you take a picture of a vegetable, the personality doesn't come out quite enough. But when you draw it, you can put the faces in and the little legs and the personality definitely comes out.
But these two aren't exactly overnight sensations. They've been growing tomatoes on this Clevedon property for 15 years.
A long time ago I used to manage this place, and then when it came up for sale, because I'd done the maths and looked at the finances, I thought, how hard can that be? And Angela had total faith in me at that stage. So I said, Ange, let's do it, and you said?
Yep, let's go.
We grew pre-packs for cherry tomatoes, and so in a way it's very simple. You just grow all the same thing, you put them in packets, you put them in pallets, and you send them to the supermarkets, and that's the job done. So it was reasonably tough, but it was simple.
But supermarkets were becoming more aggressive in price setting, and things for small growers like the Tringhams were getting pretty tight.
And then of course came psyllids.
What is a psyllid?
A psyllid is a tiny little insect, and when it bites your tomato plant, the tomato plant dies. And that's it. And because we used biocontrols and yellow sticky traps to control all our normal insect pests.
Rather than spraying.
Yes. We were one of the first people to get this new insect.
It was extraordinarily bad. Really, really bad. Completely changed everything. And so then what we were looking at...
We had to change our business.
Completely. And we were looking at biocontrols, weren't we?
Yes. We thought, there's a new insect pest, how do we control it? The obvious answer is to buy an insect that eats that insect.
Right.
Okay, and that's what we've done with these houses. There's a small insect pest called a whitefly, and we buy in little parasitic wasps to control that. And so with the psyllids, we thought, let's import a biocontrol. And I'm a director of Tomatoes NZ, which is the industry body. And we got approached by a government department that said, let's use you.
The poetry of bureaucracy.
The first government department said, you guys have a really good chance to import this bug. The second government department said, we don't want you to import this bug. And the third government department said, we'd like you all to be organic.
But you obviously can't be organic if you've got psyllids because there's no way to control it.
And so we went through the process, we spent a couple of $100,000, and then when it comes down to the hearings time...
Who do you think declined us? The first one who wanted us to get it.
The combination of those factors could have meant the end of the line for Anthony and Angela. But things drastically changed when they started being stall holders at the Clevedon Farmers Market.
I think it completely changed our focus. So we were selling to somebody that we never met, and then straight away we're selling to somebody that we meet, and they're giving us instant feedback on what we're doing, and they're telling us what they think we should grow, and so you get a beautiful exchange of ideas between us and the customers.
Also, you get to know them. You're seeing these people every single week. People who go to farmers markets in general are very friendly, very social. So it's a real social thing. We've had, this is obviously now, not back then, but we've had people say, you know, I've watched your children grow up. which they have.
And
you
yes,
know.
and we've watched their children grow up.
We've watched them have children, not quite have, but
At a farmer's market, you can experiment and you can work out what your brand should be.
yeah.
And it took us a year or two, and then we realised that this is what we need to be doing.
In,
So
in the beginning, we were just like, we're Angela and Anthony growing stuff. And then, yeah, it focused us.
So we became the Curious Croppers, growers of heirloom tomatoes for restaurants and for people that want something different.
The Croppers stall was beginning to get attention and orders from chefs, but it was John Stokes from the produce company that really started the ball rolling.
That was strange. We thought he was one of our mates that was having us on. He's a surfer, and he looks like one of Angela's brother's friends.
He looked seriously like one of my brother's friends. So he was chatting away to us, he was as friendly as anything, and we kind of just thought he was taking the
piss. But apparently he had a distribution company where he distributes to restaurants.
So he'd been going 5 or so years, and he was like, guys, you know, I like what you're doing. Why don't you come on board with us? And so we went, oh, okay.
And then that was the transition.
So John effectively offered you a channel to market, a distribution.
Yeah,
Yes.
distribution. And the whole shebang. He does everything, basically.
What do you mean everything?
Well,
Billing.
Yeah.
That's a very important part of distribution,
Yep.
is billing.
Produce company started about 20 years ago as a fruit and vegetable wholesaler. Myself and my business partner bought it about 15 years ago, and over that time we've grown it into being a larger food supplier in Auckland. We look after about 700 restaurants. We've identified over time a premium space, so we look after super yachts, luxury resorts, 46 of the top 50 restaurants out of the metro, and so that's the area that we're at now. And in our journey of meeting up with a range of growers, the Curious Croppers popped up. We met them at a farmer's market, and from there we have established a relationship where they've grown a fantastic product, disputably the best in the country, and we have been able to put that on the top, plates of all the top chefs around New Zealand and even overseas.
As well as the restaurant trade, the produce company distributes to Farrow Fresh, and that has become another successful market for the Croppers. Curious Croppers have changed the strategy of their business to develop a niche market. The provenance of their tomatoes is now mentioned in menus, a rarity for both fruit and vegetable growers. But is this business sustainable, or more importantly, interesting enough for this curious couple of croppers? We'll find out later in the show, but coming up after the break, we'll hear from our experts. This week we hear from Craig Armstrong from New Zealand Trade and Enterprise and David Irving, the founder of the Ice House. I asked David what he thought other businesses could learn from Curious Croppers. David, you were once CEO of Heinz Watties Australasia. What could other businesses learn from Curious Croppers?
Well, through my Wattie experience and through what these people have obviously gone through, is that the supermarket industry is a very challenging one. It's the mass market, so it's a place to go really for volume, scale. You have to run an extremely low cost logistical system, very responsive to the market. And yet you're trying to find some identity in the market with a brand, or as much as you can, but there's literally hundreds of others. And when you're in produce, trying to get a brand identity is very difficult unless you get scale. So for them to actually take the move, come out of a supermarket and go to the hospitality industry, where they've actually really clearly felt very much more at home, and their responsiveness is really paid off for them, because the chefs and those people who are really interested in very good food have found in them people who are very responsive to that. So the two parties, the customer and the supplier, have really worked in that environment Whereas in the supermarket world, it was almost, the relationships were never close, quite removed, hundreds of competitors. So you've got a very personalised relationship that they've been able to develop. And they obviously know their tomatoes, and so their ability to respond with tomatoes and tastes and size and all the dimensions that sort of matter when it comes to be on the plate, and the chef wants it like this on the plate, and he wants to do something different, you know, than the other chef down the road. They are right with him on that because they're so interested in their product and they're so interested in responding with new ideas and innovation for them. So the lessons of that are, you know, you have to find who you are and what you're very good at. And you'll find, you know, some others who are really at home in a supermarket game. It's a tough game, but they learn to work it. They get very good at running it. That's their home. On the other hand, over here in a quite different Clevedon market, chef type supply, much more innovation and closeness of relationship with the other party. That's the home of clearly our curious people. So know yourself and know what you're good at, find your home. We're all like that actually. If you do, then you'll make money there.
So David, how important is business planning then?
Well, stopping and thinking before you act is crucial, and these guys have clearly done that. We call it planning, and that's the right sort of formal word for it. In these fellows' case, they almost reinvented themselves. So in using the term planning, we're almost understating the degree to which they needed to make change. But the main thing is they saw that it wasn't working in a supermarket. They stopped, they thought about what to do, they would have examined the other areas, they would have gone out and carried out their own inquiries and investigations, tried things out at Clevedon, oh that works, I like this, then they would have carried on in that channel. So their planning process is one of reflection. This doesn't work. Where could we go? Find out, try it out. It works. How can we now grow that more? How can we develop off that? That's the type of planning mind that they've used here. Whether they've done that formally or informally matters less. It's the mind that they've used that's the most important. And potentially too, probably the other people that they've engaged in that thinking. They may not have done all that on their own. Most of us, when we have to make quite a significant change, will feel quite unsure of ourselves. So you've got to gain certainty, and you gain certainty through talking with other people who are familiar with the other industry, who are people that you might trust, you've got reason to believe them, you get the opportunity to see them in action and in this other world. So you begin to get your own confidence and feeling for it. And then you try it out. Then you see that works or it doesn't work, and you change or you do whatever you need to. We call all that planning. It's all about finding out and changing and organising yourself to do it.
Craig also used to be at Heinz Watty, and I asked him about why he loved Curious Croppers.
This is a firm that I absolutely adore. And I think it's probably because there's a little bit of Heinz DNA in me, and Heinz obviously was a very tomato-based enterprise. At Heinz we had been developing hybrids and varieties of tomatoes since the 1930s. And one of the things that Heinz now has is 57 different varieties of tomatoes. And it's actually a brand still on the neck of the Heinz bottle. And if you read into the Heinz story far enough, if you are upending a bottle of sauce and you tap on that 57, the sauce comes out of the bottle a lot easier. So there's a lesson here: don't slap the bottom of the bottle, but just tap on the 57 variety button. However, this is not a story about Heinz, this is about Curious Croppers. And the reason I think that they're so fantastic, and I think the reason that we love this firm so much, is because what they've done is that they've broken out of what is a commodity product now, and a product that has been look, I won't say destroyed, but the way that the retailers sell us tomatoes and the type of product they need to get around some of the perishable and food waste issues that they've got means that the tomatoes that we're buying these days aren't as tasty or just don't look like the tomatoes that we grew up with. And where Curious have gone to is that totally irreverent, a promotion and a celebration of the lack of uniformity in tomato, and they're selling us a product that still tastes and looks like the tomatoes that we remember from our youth. So a fantastic product, a very irreverent positioning, and a celebration of all things ugly, when the industry has gone the other way and is doing the other thing, based on canned and puree and sauce and all sorts of other reasons. But they've zigged when everyone else has zagged, and that's the key to their success. There is one other thing that I'd like to celebrate here as well, and that's their use of getting the brand name Curious Croppers onto menus of great restaurants like Food Store and Ostro and that sort of thing from an Auckland perspective. I think to get chefs and to get restaurants, which are being treated as rock stars at the moment, to celebrate Curious Croppers is in itself a successful move.
Thanks, Craig. We're with the Curious Croppers, Anthony and Angela Tringham in Clevedon. So what kinds of tomatoes do they grow?
Now that's an excellent question. I think we grow 20 or 30. 20 or 30 completely different varieties, and the best thing we should do is to chop them up, taste them and talk about them.
This is a Zapotec.
Well, it's beautiful, isn't it? You
Beautiful.
slice
How
that.
could you not love that? Look at that.
It's like a doily, a little tomato doily. We started with that one because it's one of the prettier ones.
Thank you.
Look, my friends, at this and weep. If ever you're going to be drawn to tears, Kirsty, over a tomato, that's it. Oh my goodness me.
Should we do a little horror?
Okay. Not the one that fell on the ground.
Did that fall on the ground?
No.
Okay. This is one of our favourites.
For taste?
For taste?
For taste, it's a
And-
very good roasting tomato. It's used in a lot of cafes.
Oh, and we use this one in a lot of our pasta sauces.
Yeah, we do. It's got a great flavour.
It's got a lovely tomato vibrancy.
I hope you do actually like tomatoes.
Love them.
You have to
Then
say
you've
that.
come to the right place.
Becoming part of the local weekly farmers market has helped their business immensely. But it's also given them an ongoing awareness of their customers that is proving invaluable.
You can do something completely different, test it in a small way at the farmers market and see if people like it. And then you can grow up at a larger scale for restaurants' sake.
And also, I mean, again, our customers are fantastic. We get, because we're based in rural South Auckland, our customers are keen growers, you know, and these guys, they grow tomatoes, they're full on about it, they know what they're doing and they know what they're supposed to taste like. They bring us in their tomatoes and they say, here, take these, this is a really good one, keep the seeds and grow this, you know, next season, and so we do.
Helen Dorestein started the Clevedon Farmers Market in 2005 and says that markets like this can be an ideal showroom for small or niche producers.
You can produce something that's unusual, put it in front of the public, quite often a discerning public, and they'll give you their honest opinion because you build a relationship with them. It's low cost, so when you set up a small business, the entry level is easy. You don't have to rent a shop, you don't have to rent, you know, your costs are low. It's very good. Farmers markets have changed a great deal because of the public's perception of food. It used to be that broccoli was broccoli wherever you bought it. People now realise that broccoli is absolutely gorgeous when it's fresh, flabby and disgusting when it's 2 weeks old. The whole public's perception of what constitutes good fresh produce has changed, and also the range of produce. We used to have something like, I don't know, 200 varieties of cucumbers 100 years ago. Now we've got about 30. And so it's bringing back all these old heritage varieties which have different flavours and different growing conditions.
Chefs often do the rounds at farmers markets too, and for growers like Anthony and Angela, the benefits are hugely important.
We are always there on a Sunday, so they can come and check to see whether we're real or not, and they can try our entire range of products and then decide what they like from it.
Also, we can talk with them about how we grow, talk to them about the different varieties and so on. Also, if it's chefs or restaurateurs that are already using our tomatoes, it's quite nice to hear how they're using them. We're very used to, with the market, that we're always talking with the end user, which we love talking to the end user. That's where things have changed so much. And so if these people come and talk to us, we're getting that, we're finding out exactly what happens.
One of the end users is well-known chef Sean Connolly. He was so impressed by them, he made a video.
When I came to New Zealand, I really didn't know any suppliers, and when I was opening the restaurant, it was quite exciting to me how many cool suppliers just knocked on the door and came to say hello. And Anthony and Angela were one of those cool couples that came in.
Well, that was really funny. We'd just gone to his restaurant for a meal, and then he says, "Hi, I'm Sean Connolly." He came and we sat down. We said, "So this is the tomato that we think you should be using. This is what we think of tomatoes," and had a couple of hours of conversation.
I asked them if they could make some of the tomatoes uglier because I wanted them more interesting and more kind of organic on the plate.
And then we felt like we were a meeting of minds.
And they came back to me like 8 or 9 months later with like these beautiful ugly tomatoes, and it's just been a really great relationship. Everything I've asked for, they've kind of gone off and experimented with, like we've been planting San Marzano here out in the gardens here, and we're just trialling different types of tomatoes, trying to find the best tomato possible.
And that dogged attention to detail has led to a new partnership with Sean.
He wanted to make some passata, and so at the beginning he was asking us to grow a paste tomatoes for a passata. So we spent 6 months or so
Yes, trialling varieties.
trialling different varieties, and then sitting down with him, tasting them all, going through and just talking tomatoes. And then it got to one point that he just went, "Hey guys, let's just do it together."
And we thought, again, how hard can that be?
We've talked to a few chefs since then and said, we thought, how hard could that be? And they spend the next 5 minutes laughing.
It's easy to boil up some tomatoes and cook a dinner out of it. It's quite another thing to come up with a recipe that you can then produce on a scale that makes it worthwhile and get quality consistent.
A real case of how knowing what your customer wants can pay dividends. The pasta sauce is now a business called Curious Connolly, and guess what? Their old mate, John Stokes, has bought into it.
The brand Curious Cropper now is a premium tomato product through the food service. We're now launching it into delicatessens and gourmet stores, and therefore the next extension was to think about what else could we leverage off that. And so in partnership with Sean Connolly, who we work with through our company, we've developed a pasta sauce where he's been able to assist in the recipes, and we've been able to assist in the distribution to delicatessens and our clients.
So is the pasta sauce business going to be it for the both of you?
The pasta sauce business is just the beginning. What we like about it is that it's a product that's not perishable like tomatoes, so we don't have to sell it all in the same week. And the other thing we like about the business is that it's scalable. So if, as we think it will be successful, then we can increase the production.
Anthony and Angela are always curious and always experimenting. They call this area the playhouse.
11, 12, 13, 14, 20 plus.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you just plant a few of everything, because as you'll see when we move to some of them, they don't produce much fruit, and so you can't make money from them selling them at any price.
So what's this fruit here? It's quite a different colour.
Isn't it pretty? It's called indigo rose. And it's so beautiful. Yeah, sometimes we grow things just because they're beautiful. This eggplant is on our logo.
That's our logo.
So as you can see, it is beautiful. It's got a lovely bottom, very shiny skin, and look, little prickles. Really quite sharp prickles. Which coincidentally is called Angela. Now that's one unusual tomato, isn't it?
That is crazy. It looks a bit like a brain.
Yes, I think so, or an electron micrograph of a pollen grain.
Well, Curious Croppers are continuing to do what interests them, so watch this space. Join us next week when we look at what can happen at the other end of food production, an innovative way to dispose of food waste.